You're tuned in to the Zelos podcast. I'm your host, Rocky Snyder, and this week I've invited Ted Rath back on the show. A couple of years ago, he was the vice president of player performance for the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, he's come out with a book recently, just last week, called Beyond Comfort. We'll find out all about what's in between the pages. But before we do, remember, continuing education workshops abound. Whether it's in person or online, check out my website, rockysnyder.com. We've got CEUs for athletic trainers, chiropractors, physical therapists, strength coaches, personal trainers, and more. rockysnyder.com. While you're online, check out Satanta College. They've got Masters of Science programs in applied sport and exercise psychology. They've also got applied sports biomechanics and movement science, as well as a Master's of Science in Performance Coaching and one for sports injuries and return to performance management. Just add RS10 in the code to get 10% tuition to it today. Kick in that subscribe button and enjoy the show. Well, Ted, I think it's been a couple of years since you've been on, and at that time, you were vice president of player performance for the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, you got uh, all those footballs in your background with the Dolphins helmet and so on. But now things have taken a different turn. I love getting all your content on social media, LinkedIn. You have such an inspirational message that you get out there. And I got to say, I'm inspired by it. But first of all, Ted, welcome to Zealous.
Rocky, thank you. Once again, thank you for those kind words. It's an honor to be here again. I appreciate what you're doing with this podcast and with the message that you're putting out there as well.
Well, right on. Now, tell me, if you don't mind, you're with the Eagles for quite a while. And of course, being a Patriots fan, I got a little something in the back of my throat right now, but I want to say congratulations for all the victories you've had there. But at the same time, if you don't mind me asking, what inspired the change?
Yeah, well, you guys had plenty of winning seasons, Rocky, so I don't feel too bad for you. You've been spoiled for quite a long time.
We have.
The transition was good. You know, I spent 5 years with the Eagles, five off seasons, and really 16 years in the NFL. We came basically at the end of the year, transitioned to a new role. Probably wasn't the best for me or the organization, so we just said, "Hey, let's make a clean split." For me, it was an opportunity to say, "All right, I need time with my family. I need time to maybe focus on some passion projects, such as writing a book." Trying to get more present on social media and just putting a positive word out there. You know, I've done speaking in the past when I've had time, but time within an NFL schedule, as you can imagine, Rocky, is not easy. So I've been given the gift of time this year, and it's allowed me to literally write a book. It's allowed me, I've partnered with the Daily Coach, and we're working on leadership development groups where I'm the lead coach and facilitator. These things that I'm very passionate about, helping people, developing good leadership tactics and techniques, and really inspiring people to go forward and hopefully become better versions of themselves. That's what I've done throughout my NFL career for athletes, but I've found business, different ventures, different industries, everyone can benefit from these same tools and these same techniques. So for me, I found a lot of benefit and a lot of passion in pouring into people from different industries, whether it's sports or something completely unrelated, Rocky. So that's kind of what we've been doing this year, and I've loved every second of it.
Right on. So the reason why we're going live, by the way, this is a first for me, for listening audience that checks in every Monday morning when Zealous usually airs at 9 a.m. Eastern and 6 a.m. Pacific time. It's usually a recorded conversation, and next Monday is going to be no different. But I thought you've got a special event coming up tonight with the release of your book, which we'll talk about momentarily. But I thought, wow, wouldn't this be an opportunity to actually go live so people could find out about this event that's happening, know a little bit more about yourself in the book? So it's going to be a nice kind of experiment here, and I think it's going well already. So first of all, tell me the title of your book and maybe the subtitle as well.
Yeah, main title Beyond Comfort, because I think everyone, we had talked right before we hit record how important it is to get outside of our comfort zones in every aspect of life, not just physically, but also mentally, reading, writing, all the things that we're trying to become better at. So Beyond Comfort, and then the subtitle is Mastering a Growth Mindset with Excellence Through Urgency. So I think when you pair urgency and obviously excellent standards and processes, it's those daily habits. I call them our daily deposits. Those daily deposits that you put in today, tomorrow, and every day in between, that's what will build your long-term legacy. So for me, Rocky, it's making sure that those daily habits and those daily deposits are in alignment with what my future goals are. If I want to have a positive legacy to leave my children and the other people that I impact someday, I better be living in alignment with that through applying urgency with my daily habits and my daily deposits right now.
Okay, I find a little bit of irony here in the title itself of you basically you're encouraging people to go outside of their comfort zone. And I'm seeing that writing a book isn't the most comfortable thing on the world. So apply that to the writing aspect if you don't mind. Like, was it scary? Was it daunting? Like, what was it to come up with this idea of writing a book and to actually follow it through so that it materialized in your hands?
Great question, Rocky. When you look at the outcome, yes, it can be daunting. It can be scary. When you look at just like in sports, but also in life, if I started this process and said, I just want to get the physical copy of my book so I can sell it, that's pointless. For me, it was the process. I actually found great enjoyment through this process, Rocky, and it's something I've been an avid reader for a long time. I love reading. I love devouring books. I can read while I'm on a Stairmaster, elliptical. I can read when I'm doing. I love reading and I love taking in podcasts and listening. I love that. Writing is something that I haven't done consistently. It's a good friend of mine, Ryan Hawk. It's AJ Hawk's brother. He kind of encouraged me a couple years ago, start writing because that daily writing process creates clarity. And I've found that to be 100% true when you take time to put intentional thought. And the key word there is intentional thought and write down what you're thinking. For me, it just brought up all these lived experiences, Rocky. It brought up stories when I'm talking about default urgent. When you take an urgent attitude into everything, it doesn't have to be just urgent action, urgent patience with my children and urgent grace when someone makes a mistake. Those things, I started thinking about all these lessons in these stories. So that's what led me to writing in a lot of these stories. It's not just stories from the NFL. There's obviously a few of those, but things that I've learned from business leaders, from different industries, from different impactful leaders that I've been around and seen do incredible things and have great results. But it's through this consistent process. So I focused on process, writing down. It wasn't 500 words a day. It was just writing down, all right, what is this? Let me formulate my thoughts. Let me put it down with clarity and let me continue to think and ruminate on this. And I actually came to really enjoy that process, Rocky. So if I would have just thought about getting the book finished and pushed to our launch party tonight, that would have taken me throughout the process, probably skipping steps. I would have missed something. When you focus on the day by day, that step by step approach, that's where you nail the process. And then the end result will take care of itself.
So this sounds like your viewpoint, your perspective of how to carry yourself toward your goals is something that is a culmination of a lot of events in your past that started to kind of form together. I don't imagine it was one particular event that kicked this off in the way that you feel. So give me a little bit of an idea of like how how did you start to see goal setting and accomplishing and just inspiring? Like, how did that kind of start to percolate up to the surface?
Yeah, another great one. I think when you look at it, Rocky, we are basically the result of our environments. And when I look back at even my childhood, I'm so blessed to think I grew up in a very rural area, very small town. I graduated with around 80 people in my graduating class. So small high school, southeastern Michigan, a farm community. I grew up and we had nothing but fields around us. My grandparents' farm was literally across the field. So I grew up, and when I'm 7, 8 years old, I'm baling hay in the Michigan summers, and it's hot and it's humid and it's sticky. I'm watching my grandfather get up at 4 in the morning to do his chores on the farm. I'm watching my dad. My dad got up at 2:30 in the morning to go to his job in Detroit, Michigan. That's how early he had to get up. But he would come home and still play catch with me because I'm a little Energizer bunny, and I'm, Dad, can we go throw the ball around? Yeah, let's go. So seeing that, that was my environment. And then it continued on when I got into athletics, junior high, high school, and then I found training. I developed that passion because I realized hard work is a separator. That's the cheat code, Rocky. So for me, if I can apply hard work and then consistency over time, that's my cheat code. And that's my cheat code against the competition. I saw that firsthand because all my friends who I was competing with in high school, I started to get stronger. I started to get better at sports. And then I saw the training actually have an outcome on the sports or on whatever else I was doing. So then I took that with me to college. Then I took that with me to my profession. So I think learning that grit, if I had to sum it up in one word, if you grew up in a farm community and you look at what farmers do on a day-to-day basis, that is a gritty, gritty job. You have to develop that grit muscle and you got to show up to the work every single day. The work doesn't care if you're sick. The work doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care if you're not ready to wake up early in the morning. The work is still waiting for it to be done. So for me, that grit, you have to develop that grit muscle, and that's really going to be a great separator in life.
Yeah, I grew up not in a rural community, blue collar neighborhood north of Boston, and to make ends meet or whatever, to get a little extra cash in your pocket, you would rake leaves in the fall, you would shovel driveways in the winter. It was a great winter after 1978's blizzard that my dad invested in a snowblower because he was never going to go through that ordeal again. So then my business upgraded because I had a snowblower. I could do more driveways, but in high school in the summertime it was paving driveways with
Mhm.
asphalt for my cousin's company, and of course being the smallest guy on the team, I could get underneath the stairways and tamp all that stuff down. And you want to talk about hot summers, New England's humidity just is brutal. So we have that work ethic established in early years. Like, you put in your time, and when you're off the clock, that's a different story. But when you're there, you work, and it's carried us both, I think, quite well through life. But here's the thing, Ted, is that I don't know if that's happening as much anymore because we've advanced technologically, and of course we've got these little devices that are great for thumb exercise. But when it comes to the younger generation growing up, it seems like manual labor is almost a curse word.
Mhm.
So how do you address that, or how do you get that demographic, that population that doesn't have the farm background or the blue collar upbringing?
Yeah, the first thing I'll say, and this is easy to say, it's hard to do because you're exactly right. This is a fundamental question we need to answer for our society, Rocky, not just now, but long term. I would say do easy less, but do hard better and more often. So for me, I'm doing this with my children. You know, how often I think the other side of this, not just a fear of doing hard physical work, but also a fear of failure. You know, we don't want to fail. We don't want to let these children, you know what? Failure is a part of life. You look at the top operators, the Navy SEALs, they think with the thought process of fail forward. We love to fail because we're learning. We're not losing. If it's a training exercise or a mission, we either win or we learn. We're going to learn through this process. So you fail forward. So creating those safe practices, just like sports, just like in business, you have to create a safe environment. Once again, your environment will shape you. Create that safety net in an environment where it makes it okay to fail. So my kids are encouraged to fail. Try a new sport. Try anything that you want to try. You're not going to be good at it right away. Understand that, but that's okay because that grit that you will develop through failing, through falling down, through learning is going to develop you into a stronger, more productive person in every other area and facet of life. So for me, it's not just demonstrating you have to work hard physically just to maintain our health, because that's the other side of this too. For maintaining a long, healthy life, we have to work out. We have to take care of ourselves physically, mentally, all those things. But also we have to allow ourselves to learn through failing. We have to fail. We have to try new things. If you never try anything new, how well developed are you expecting to be later in life? So I encourage everyone, try new things, fail, learn from it, move on. Don't make the same mistakes twice, but don't be afraid to jump into something and try to learn from it too.
Okay, you've made your way up the ranks in a top level professional sports team. So for some people looking at you from the outside may say, "Oh, well, look at all the opportunity he has. Of course he can do these things." But also they need to understand where you came from
Mhm.
to appreciate where you are. Obviously, I think that goes with everybody in life. But and what would you say to that? Somebody saying that, well, look, of course you're going to write a book. Of course you're going to take time off from the NFL. Like, what do you say to that?
Yeah, the first thing is I've seen a lot of people with the same opportunities that I've had that have not produced the results that I've produced. And I say that humbly, but I say that with a strong confidence because I know I've done some really cool things and I've helped a lot of teams win. I've taken two teams to the Super Bowl. There's things that I'm very proud of accomplishing. One of my proudest moments, my first year in the NFL, Rocky, 2009, Detroit Lions. It was the year after they went 0-16. I left a full-time position at the University of Toledo, healthcare, benefits, making a full-time salary, I took a restricted hours job with the Detroit Lions. So I maxed out all my hours. I had 1,000 hours. I maxed them out through the offseason. I was done. I didn't receive a paycheck from literally July until February until I got promoted the following year. I didn't get a paycheck for 6 months. That didn't deter my work ethic. That didn't change what time I showed up to work. I was still the first person in the building. I was getting to work at 4 a.m. To make ends meet. I started high school strength and conditioning jobs. So I started these programs and built them from scratch, which helped me develop, but just to make a little bit of money so that I could live. And then I would work a full day at the NFL. I would drive there at night. So at a time, I was driving from Toledo, Ohio to Allen Park, Michigan. I was driving from Allen Park to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Then I was driving back to Toledo, hopefully getting home by 9:30, 10 at night, waking up at 3 in the morning to get to work at 4. That was my process. That took place over the long term. Once again, persistence versus perseverance. Persistence, anyone can do that for one day. I did that for a year. I didn't get a paycheck. So for me, going through that process, I will show up to work the same way, whether I'm making $1 million+ or whether I'm making zero, because that's my standard. My standard has to be the results, my actions. Don't tell me how hardworking you are. Don't tell me how much you're going to accomplish. Show me. We all see better than we hear. And I think my actions prove that through that time. And I look back more proud about that time than any other accomplishment, award, or anything that I've had, Rocky, because that was grit. That was grit in action. And I look back at that. I'm proud of that.
Well, and look at the role model you had. Dad waking up at 2 something in the morning to go to Detroit, but come home
Mhm.
and still play ball with you. I can espouse the same thing with my upbringing. And so that brings up role models. How important is this process to have role models in your life?
It's so important. It's critically important. And I think the other thing to recognize too, Rocky, because everyone has different role models that they can pull from different areas. I have my father, my grandfather, I have my mother. My mother drove in the demolition derby at our county fair when I was growing up because someone told her women couldn't do it. That's my
That's
mom.
awesome.
She defines what it is. Women are strong. Like she's like, what? Women can't do that. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna show you. So I've had all these people. I'm very blessed. I recognize and I'm super empathetic for people that maybe didn't grow up with parents in their household or whatever their life circumstances were. But I think you have to find them. Sometimes you can find people, maybe it's an author, maybe it's a podcast host, maybe it's someone that you see on television or a leader or a pastor at a church. You can find these role models because I have found that I can learn from everyone I encounter. It could be someone who, from the outside world, they look at a person and they have a low, quote unquote, low job title. I can learn more from that person than I might be able to the person at the top of the rung or the CEO of that company because they're too busy and they're not demonstrating some of the leadership methods that I would say are good characteristics of a strong leader. So for me, it's finding those people, not looking past anyone. There's no rank to someone who can teach you a valuable lesson. So being able to zoom out, open up your perspective and say, I can learn from everyone. That's a valuable lesson because role models are all around us. You just have to open your eyes and try to find them.
Well, that's the definition of humility, right? Teachable. So as long as we can be teachable, the teacher will appear no matter what. So give me a little bit of a breakdown in terms of chapters in your book, if you don't mind. Like, how did you break up this process?
Yeah, the big thing for me, because once again, I've been an avid reader for a long time. I love books where it gives you simple but effective tools. And I love stories because I think we all learn through stories. Obviously, the NFL is cool. It's a very popular sport, it's a popular entertainment venue. So, bringing stories that I've learned, whether it's from leaders like Sean McVay or going into the interview process when we interviewed and hired Nick Sirianni, I flew on our owner's jet and went to his house in Florida and got to be a part of that. We interviewed all these head coaches. That was an amazing process. So drawing on stories like that to be able to define one of the chapters is, the standard. Your standards are your daily habits. So what are your daily habits saying about what your long-term growth potential is? And then applying that through players like Calvin Johnson, Aaron Donald, Jared Goff, some of the players in Dominican Sue that I've been around, and some of these incredible people. But then also on the other side, guys who have written incredible books like John Gordon and some of those guys who have also written testimonials for me. I've gotten to know these people. You can learn from all of these individuals and you can learn from men and women from various industries. And I think that's what I try to do. So I break up the chapters to where it's a position of, hey, here's the standard. All right, this is our first chapter. But then as we get to the end of the chapter through storytelling, I bring it back on some easy to apply methods that you could apply to your life. One of those is the toe test. If you're struggling with getting out of bed, creating once again that environment around you so that you can be more productive in the morning. If your phone's right next to your bed and you constantly hit snooze, Move your phone 10 feet away from your bed. Get it away from you. So that process alone will help you get your feet on the floor. And then how fast, physically, how fast can you get your feet on the floor? Because right when you hit that foot with urgency, you're going to pop down and you're going to have a more productive momentum built into that day. So for me, it's creating those environments, and it's simple strategies that everyone can do and everyone can literally apply literally today after they read these words, and they can put that into their lives. And I know that it's going to help them become a more productive individual because I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah, I think we spoke in the past about how we scare our wives in the morning because we get out of bed so darn fast, and yeah, it's just those. I don't think people really understand the importance of the small steps that
Mhm.
bring about greater success, and that could be for me. I'll just share a few things that I do every morning. Get out of bed at 4:20 if the alarm actually wakes me up. Otherwise, I'm going to get up just before that. I get up and I go in the other room quietly, don't want to wake anybody up. And I sit down, and the first thing I do are it sounds silly, but I write down three things I'm grateful for. And it's
Mm.
on my Google Calendar. It's like that is my first task of the day. Google Calendar, okay, do that. And then I actually do a couple of mental puzzles. I do like, the simple ones like a mini crossword puzzle or Wordle or all those other ones. I do a few of those and I share them with some friends via texting. So we have ourselves a little kind of competition going back and forth. They don't answer right away, of course, whenever they wake up. And, and, and it's those little things that you would think, whatever, that's kind of silly and all that. I tell you, Ted, that gets me in a right frame of mind. And after I do that, then I can kind of do some easy stuff. And then I jump in the shower, get dressed, and I hit my day. So I have a feeling that you've got those little things too.
I love that. And number one, gratitude is one of them. I keep the notes on my phone, but I have to give myself three things. And the rule that I've given myself, my wife does this too, and we start doing it with our kids. You can't use the same thing that you've already listed. So after
Oh
you've
no.
done this for a few months, Rocky, you start shoelaces. I'm grateful for shoelaces. You just go through, your perception changes. So yeah, the toe test, first thing I do, I get up as fast as possible. My goal, my first win of the day is never to let my alarm ring twice. So that first, it's not going a second one because I'm out, I'm fumbling, I'm trying to hit it, and then I'm on my feet. Next thing I do, I get on my knees, I pray, and then I'm building momentum. I work out physically in the morning because I want to stress myself once again beyond comfort. I'm getting out of my comfort zone. So I'm going to put myself through some hard physical stress. And then during that time, if I'm doing cardio on that day, I'm reading. So I'm ingesting. If I'm working out, I'm listening to a podcast while I'm doing it. I'm bringing in positive mental stress because I'm building myself and I'm trying to sharpen those tools, but I'm physically sharpening those tools as well. Then I go through that process. Then I shower. Now the time is, I'm usually at work hours before the kids are up. Now I get to be a part of the kids. So help them make breakfast and be present for those moments. That's critically important for me. But those first few things, man, especially the gratitude, Rocky, I'm with you because once you actually apply that habit, and it's a habit, once you get into the process of doing it every single day, your perception will change. You will notice things that you need to be grateful for, as opposed, it's the abundance mindset versus the scarcity mindset. We can all win and grow together, but when you actually use that gratitude muscle and develop that, man, life becomes so much better because you see the things that you have and you're not just solely focused on the things that you don't.
I like saying things out loud also to other
Mhm,
people, like not necessarily telling on myself, but
mhm,
just expressing my desire to achieve this or that event or that task. Because if I keep it in, there's a high likelihood that I'll just kind of waver on it. But if I say it to somebody else, then I've got to show up for that. I've,
yes.
I, if, I don't know if it's an ego kind of thing, but it works for me. And I find that if I'm writing a book, for instance, telling somebody, okay, I'm going to write a book on that. Well, there you go. Now I have to follow through on it. So
Yep.
accountability, I guess, is what I'm saying. Like that must be I won't say a chapter, but it must be an element. Like, do you talk about accountability?
Absolutely. And more specifically, discipline, because I think accountability, the most important person we can hold accountable is ourselves. So there's a couple chapters in there where I touch on this and also some of the kind of take home the challenges. One is making a monthly prompt, looking yourself critically in the mirror and being 100% truthful and honest with yourself. What did I screw up this month? What do I have to edit? Because Kobe Bryant said this. I was at the University of Alabama and I was consulting with them on their performance department in one year, and it was right after Kobe unfortunately passed away. Kobe Bryant had come to the Alabama football team the year prior and spoke to them, and they did this interview series where players could ask questions. So that day they said, "Hey Ted, would you want to watch this? We're going to show the video in the team room. The whole team's going to watch it." Yeah, heck yeah, let me see that. So I got to sit in there with the Bama football team and watch this video. And Kobe talked about something that's impacted me tremendously. He said, "Edit your life." One of the players, young player, freshman, asked him, he said, "How did you become the greatest?" And Kobe famously talks about the fundamentals and being a nerd with the fundamentals, just be the best ever at the fundamentals. And there's absolutely truth to that. But then he went right into this. He said, "I also recognized that I had to edit my life. I had to edit out the things that I knew were not helping me become the best version of myself, and I needed to edit in the things that I knew would help me get to that point." So he talked about the people in his life. I had to edit out people that I knew weren't good for me. They were close friends. They were people that had been with me for a long time. It was difficult, but it was a simple decision because I knew that they were not going to help me become the greatest ever. So I edited them out of my life immediately. And then I knew my competition's working out twice a day. They're doing 2 workouts a day in the summer and the off season. I'm going to do 3. So I edited in. I started waking up at 3 in the morning. I'd get a morning session, afternoon, then an evening session. So by the end of the off season, I had accumulated all these additional hours in this time on task. I knew I had earned confidence that I had done this because I edited my life. So I think it comes back to that. I challenge people in a couple of the chapters to do exactly that. What do you need to edit in, and what do you need to edit out of your life right now? And then once again, apply urgency. Don't wait. Do it right now. Take action.
Yeah, taking personal inventory, creating a lifelong balance sheet, if you will. What are my assets and liabilities? Is a again, I'll use the word daunting. It can be a
Mhm.
daunting task, but just like that gratitude list, that once you begin, it becomes a habit. So, what's, if you don't mind me just prying personally, what's on your balance sheet? What are your assets and liabilities?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's funny because this transition phase, Rocky, traditionally the NFL, we always joke it's more military-esque, where everything's very structured. You know exactly what you're doing Monday morning, Tuesday at 1 p.m. Every day is very structured. Obviously, there's game change like Thursday night games, Monday night games, things like that, but it's very structured. Transitioning into this phase, it's maintaining that structure with me, waking up early, but also not missing the opportunity to be there with my children. So for me, it's that balance. I know I have to get up extra early because I want to be done with that physical checklist that we talked about earlier. My physical, my mental, I want to read. Everything's got to be done so that I can be 100% present. I'm not on my phone. I'm not scrolling social media. I'm with my children because that's a time I've never had in my life, Rocky. I've been at the office for hours by the time they're going to school. I could FaceTime them, but I'm actually getting that time and that opportunity to be physically present before school, picking them up. That is one of the most valuable times that I've had in my entire life, Rocky. So I need to make sure that I'm checking off all those things. So it was a struggle because it was an adaptation. When you get thrown in these seasons of life and you're used to one thing for 2 decades, half your life, then you get thrown out and you have a little bit of freedom and you're like, well, you don't have to wake up at 3 in the morning. All right, but should I? That's my question. My balance is, what can I do and what should I do? Those are two very different things because if we all go through life thinking I could get away with this for 1 day or 2 days, that turns into your new habits. You have to align your habits with whatever your future goals are. My goals are to become an impactful person, to make sure continue to have a positive impact on people. Then I better live with those same healthy habits that I have, whether I'm in a very structured environment or whether I have a little bit more freedom to dictate my schedule. So that's what I had to struggle and really work through, Rocky. And it's been fun because I mean I've never had that time like I just told you with our children, but I found I have to be more structured because the more freedom you get, the more you really have to nail down that structured mentality.
Well, what a blessing it is for you to be able to have that ability to participate with your kids on a much more regular basis and in person. I know myself, fortunately, with the schedule that I maintain, I was able when they were much younger to really be there for them. We homeschooled, so I was one of their teachers and interacted on quite a regular basis and modified my work schedule around such things, and it really worked out for us. And the what that manifested in are 2 young adults that have passion and direction, and I'm just blown away by it myself. And I don't know if that's because of the interaction we had, but I'm sure there was a part of that. So the question I have for you is, you spent years in the NFL in a very structured place where mid July to February, daddy was more on a screen than he was in person typically. And now that's actually not happening. So is there do you witness a change in your kids because of your physical presence in their life now?
Yeah, it's funny you asked this because my wife and I were talking about it. I coached Little League softball, flag football. I'm coaching basketball now. So number one, just those times. And it's not just the coaching, it's the drive time. That organic time spent in the car, Rocky, is what I'm finding. I'm sure you're probably the same. Those conversations you have for 20 minutes while you're just traveling to the practice or to the game, that is life changing. I have found so much joy and value there. The funny thing, as my wife and I talked about it, and we were kind of reflecting, this was during the football season for flag football. My son has never really gotten into football. We have two daughters and a son. And my son this year Dad, can we watch the NFL? Can we watch this game? And he started getting into it a little bit more, a little bit more. And I coached his team. He's become like a super fan overnight. I started thinking, well, is this because there might have been a little bit of resentment there because football has always taken dad away? Football takes you away from your birthday, or dad's missing this event or that. Why? Because dad has a game. So that alone has been enlightening and I think eye-opening for me, Rocky, because as I looked at it, I never thought about that. And how selfish of me, because that should be the first thing that I think of, trying to see things through the lens of my children's eyes. But now it makes so much sense and it's helped me once again form that clarity of, wow, they probably look at the sport very different than I do because I'm a grown adult now and the sports had such a tremendously positive impact on my life. But they see some of the negative sides of it because this sport is taking dad away a lot. So I found that to be fascinating. And I think I'll never, whatever my journey becomes, if I'm back in the NFL this year, whatever it becomes, I'm going to look at it with a very different perspective, Rocky, because seeing that has really helped me formulate how they see me through that lens and how they see the sport.
I'm loving this conversation, Ted. I really
Me
am
too.
because, week after week, we're typically talking about, oh, the science of performance and athletic training, physical therapy, strength conditioning, and so on. But we don't delve too much into the personal realm of what's happening, as a person, not as a professional necessarily. So it's really quite wonderful. So tell me a little bit about, you've got a book release party happening tonight, and I'll tell you, the listening audience listening live right now through Facebook here, that if you go to LinkedIn on a separate browser, obviously, LinkedIn, and go to Ted Rath and view his profile, you'll find a link there to tonight's book release party, which give me information on that, when and where and how that happening.
Yeah, it's completely virtual, Rocky. So it's 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific. So for anyone out there, you can register. It's 15 to 20 minutes. We're not asking for a lot of time, but as kind of the give back, because this has been a fun process. But just like anything, you always recognize when you accomplish something like writing a book, it's not me. I've had a lot of help. A lot of people have helped me do this, including my family. So it's kind of a give back to the people who we don't live in our hometown, my family that's away. So that virtual aspect and really just 15 to 20 minutes you can come on there. You're going to have an opportunity to buy the Kindle edition for only 99 cents. And then obviously you can buy the hardcovers in the hardcover or the softcover copy on Amazon. But that'll be at 6 p.m. tonight. So we'll do a quick webinar. We'll do some questions and answers through the chat. So I'm excited just to be there because I think as the give back, it's going to be fun to kind of launch it, talk about the book, but also do some Q&A with everyone that jumps on there.
That's great. Well, I would say you're a master at giving back because, again, following your exploits on social media, and I know you're not really one for social media too much, but anytime I get on LinkedIn, you pop up, and it's not with the typical performance director information. I'll say that. I think that's what really connected me. That's what really kept me kind of going, okay, what's Ted talking about today? Because it wasn't about being in the weight room with the Eagles. It wasn't about dealing with the coaches meeting or the other stakeholders. It was the intangibles. And I think that is really important to impress upon everybody that yes, hard work ethic, it's about what you're lifting, how much and how frequently and so on. But you spoke about the intangibles. You're trying to breed champions, but not just by virtue of physicality, but by virtue of spirituality and mentality. So I know you've got a strong faith and a strong belief in your higher power, and I can see that with that helps guide your way. Do you want to talk about that a little bit too?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you saying that. My philosophy on life is this: it's faith, family, then football. And sometimes if I'm living once again in alignment with that, I need to look at myself critically in the mirror because for the past several years I've chosen football, and I can say that humbly because football takes a lot of time. But for my priorities, when I'm present, I have to be present. If it's in my faith life, I have to be vocal and I have to be okay with saying, yeah, I believe in Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. That's my belief because that's helped me shape my personal thoughts, my core values in life. That helps me whenever I come up to a hard decision that I have to make. I can look to the Bible, I can look to God's word, and I can apply that, whether it's raising my children, whether it's, taking a job in the NFL, whether it's considering different opportunities. All those things come up, but the Bible to me is my pathway. So as I go into that, that's been a big driving force. And when I post things on social media, Rocky, why I really appreciate you saying that is I'm talking to myself along with everyone else. And I think that's the first thing we have to understand when whether it's a lesson, our kids joke, oh, dad's giving another life lesson. Yeah, life lessons, it's for myself too. It's for them and hopefully whoever else, joins or follows or whatever. But for me, it's things that I've learned and has helped me in my life personally. And it's things that I'm going to continue to spread out there because I think it's valuable for others to impart and impact into their lives because it will lead to a future, more productive version of themselves. And that's what I'm passionate about.
Right on. That's great. Okay. Uh, Somewhat non sequitur there. The summer camp began this year. Preseason kicked off, and then of course the NFL season in September. How are you feeling? Like just like a lifelong student, and then you graduate, and then the school year starts up again, but you're not part of it, kind of
Mhm.
thing. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is where I don't want to say scared. I wasn't scared. I was nervous of how I was going to feel, Rocky. So number one, having that awareness and I think strategically planning. We went to Europe 3 separate times over the summer. One of those times I spoke at an NBA Players Association event in Malaga, Spain. So we're sitting in Spain and I have friends that are in training camp texting me, hey man, how's it going? Checking in. I said, it's going a lot better than you. And I'll send them a picture because I'm overlooking a bluff in Spain. I was like, I know you're in training camp. So that was the fun part, having fun with it, Rocky. And then as the season went, I started, I watch games. To be honest, watching a game as just a non-biased fan and a spectator, I love the sport of football. Why? It's taught me so much. It's taught me valuable life lessons that I'm going to continue to spread to others, and it's had an impact. But when I just sit back and watch as a fan, I understand why this sport is so popular, Rocky, because it's awesome. I mean, the drama in the games, the back and forth, and I know a lot of the people participating in these, so it's really fun for me to just sit back as a fan because I truly love the game and I love the competition. I love that fight for a championship. I love that. So I don't want I miss it. I love the competition. I love game day, but people always see the game day and they're like, that's got to be so cool. Rocky, what I love, it's the Monday in the weight room after either a big win or a tough loss, because that's an opportunity to come together as a team, to connect better, to motivate and inspire players and coaches and other grown adults, men and women, so that we can continue to fight for a common cause. I love that. And that's what drives me because I know getting into a building like that, getting into a group and a team, being a part of something bigger than yourselves, there's nothing more special than that in this life. So I love watching that. That's what I miss because I've done it for so long, Rocky, as you see it. It's not the game. The game's fun to watch, but I know going into the locker room, the celebrations, or sometimes the somber defeats, and figuring out how you're going to collect yourselves, pick yourselves up, and then get over that adversity. If it's a 2 game losing streak, whatever it is, I love that aspect of it because it's just like in life, Rocky. You have ups, you have downs, you have adverse moments. You have to overcome those so that you can really carry on.
Right on. You mentioned lessons in your career. What about unexpected lessons? Things that you weren't planning on learning. Were there are there any events that come up in your mind right now where you're like, wow, I was not thinking that, well, I learned quite a bit from that and I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, one of the biggest ones. It's not fun, and I wouldn't recommend it. But I had a stroke when I was in my early 30s, and I was sitting in Los Angeles, and middle of an off-season day. It was May, and we were going into an off-season workout. We had a team meeting first, so Coach McVay's up there, Sean's up there talking, and I'm trying to look at the screen. I can't see. Vision's becoming blurry, fuzzy. I start to feel nauseous. I don't feel good. I was sitting next to our medical director, Reggie Sky. I said, Reggie, something's off. I just don't feel good. he took me out in the hallway. By the time I got there, I'm vomiting. He sat around. We called the team doc. He said, it's probably viral. Just lay down, see if you feel better. I didn't feel better after a few more moments. I got sick again, and I went back and said, something's definitely off. I don't get sick like this. So the team doctor, out of an abundance of precaution, said, go to the hospital, just take him, get him checked out. It was about an 8 to 10 minute drive. We get to the hospital. I can't speak, Rocky. They wheel me in a wheelchair. I lost the ability to speak. It's bits, there's blurry pieces, but I remember vividly looking up and there's 10 to 15 medical personnel surrounding you, scrambling and understanding enough that's not a good thing. And going through that process, they got a clot buster in me within the time frame. It's like a 2 hour time frame. They can inject this thing called TPA in you. And thank God they got it in. And otherwise, if you don't, that's typically where long-term damage and bad stuff really happens. So thank God that happened. But as I was sitting in the recovery room, I'm in the ICU, and I remember when they first let my wife come in and see me, Robin, and I remember the look on her face, because in my head, I'm kind of coming to, this is several hours after, I'm trying to be strong, obviously, as the man, don't show emotion, show your strength. And I'm sitting in a hospital bed in the ICU. I can't really move. And I think I can talk at this point. I couldn't, because as I opened my mouth, I have no idea what came out, but I saw the look on my wife's face. It's not funny, but it's something that's seared into my memory, Rocky. I just felt, I was like, oh my goodness, like my life's over. What's going to happen? And that fear crept in to where, what if I can't speak? What if I don't regain this ability? What if I can't work? What if I can't, how am I going to take care of my family? And going through that process later on, that stint in the ICU, I saw a priest walk by the hallway. And I don't know if he was going to administer last rites. Obviously, we've talked about I'm a faithful person. I don't know the story of everyone else in that ICU, but the learning lesson there is this: health health stuff doesn't discriminate. I didn't have any risk factors. They found a hole in my heart. I had to have heart surgery to later close it, but I didn't know that. I was a physically active college football player. I'm in the best shape of my life. It doesn't discriminate. So what that's taught me is, number one, carry empathy. You have to carry empathy, especially when you're in a leadership role or you're dealing with other people, because people are emotional, myself included. It's helped me formulate better empathy when I'm dealing with others, give each other grace, because if someone makes a mistake, I don't know what they're dealing with at home. I'm going to come in that once again with that lens of maybe they're dealing with some issues and I don't fully comprehend this. So I'm not going to judge them right off the bat. Bringing that empathy has helped me tremendously in my life, Rocky, because it's just helped avoid probably a lot of conflict, but also it's helped me be in a position where I can have a positive impact on others, because I'm willing to listen and I'm willing to give people that grace. And once again, it's biblical, forgive. And that's something that our society doesn't necessarily do a great job of, because I'm competitive too. It's not like if somebody does something wrong to me, my inherent natural tendency isn't, oh, just forgive them. It takes effort and it takes reps and it takes work to get to that point. And I'm not perfect by any means, but I'm going to continue on that path and try to make myself better. But that health scare, that definitely helped me apply empathy to every situation and realize that people are dealing with things that you might not fully comprehend. So maybe take a step back and don't judge everyone so quickly.
Wow. That's remarkable. That is something else. Yeah, like you say, you don't wish it on anybody, but what a landmark in your life. What a turning point in many ways. What a way to kind of, hone the tip of the spear in a way. So
Mhm.
you you're you're on, yeah, I will say you're on the virtual sidelines these days. And where's your life taking you? Like, obviously you've got the book, and I obviously wish you success with that, but opportunities abound, I imagine. Where are your sights set?
Yeah, I mean, my site's set similar to what we're talking about on the process. Today, the book launch, I'm going to try to be present. I'm going to try to enjoy this. I haven't had one of these before, so I'm going to enjoy the process. Tomorrow, I'm going to do the same thing. As opportunities arise, I'm always flattered and honored. And obviously, I am a competitive person, and I think I can bring a lot of value to a lot of teams out there. So I'm excited about to see what happens. I have a lot of friends, Rocky. That's the other side of this. I have a lot of really close friends that I've developed great relationships with. And if they take on a job, they take on a leadership role, they become a head coach or a general manager, it's hard for me not to want to go help them, because my desire is to help good people accomplish great things. And it's that thing that we talked about, being a part of something greater than ourselves. I love that. And that sports to me is the microcosm of life, because to help others achieve something greater than ourselves, that's the ultimate honor, especially in athletics, but also in business and everything we're talking about. So I'm enjoying what I'm doing. We've done some leadership consulting, I'm doing keynote speaking. I get a lot of passion from that, because once again, it's having an impact and it's learning the why, what motivates motivates and what inspires people, whether you're speaking to a Fortune 500 company or a sports organization. I love the why. Why are you motivated? How can we get that inspiration to pull out of you and help you go accomplish something even greater than you thought was possible? I love that. So we'll see what happens, Rocky, but I'm enjoying every day. I'm trying to live life with that process-based approach, not that outcome. I'm just going to live life every day and enjoy today, and then tomorrow move on to tomorrow.
Right on. Well, I can sense it in not only your words, but your body language and just your energy. So, beyond comfort, mastering a growth mindset with excellence through urgency. And Ted Rath has that book launch. You can go to LinkedIn. Is it? I imagine you post on Instagram as well. What's your handle on Instagram?
Yeah, at Ted Rath Strength Coach, and then same thing, Facebook, Ted Rath, a YouTube channel at Ted Rath Strength Coach. We have information on all the handles on all those social platforms.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad you had time before your launch to sit down with me. I really appreciate you and the time that you've devoted to this. And I look forward to seeing what else is coming down the pipe for you. And I look forward, like I say, to all your posts on LinkedIn. So keep them coming, and good luck with the book launch for sure.
I appreciate you, Rocky. Thanks for this opportunity, but just thanks for the great conversation. Thanks for the platform that you're putting out there and the good things that you're doing in this world too. I appreciate you.
Whoa, that was pretty good there. What a great conversation. Can't thank Ted enough for coming on. I'm sure that book is going to be #1 bestseller on Amazon. So get yourself a copy, whether it's Kindle, hardcover, softcover. Just go on to Amazon.com and order once a day. And don't forget, if you need some continuing education units before the end of the year, check out my website. We've got some in-person courses coming up next year, but you can always get something online. And there's a free little course in case you want to get a little bit better understanding of what I do. Remember, Setanta College is where you can go for your Masters of Science and a whole bunch of different performance tools. That's RS10. That's the code you want to use for 10% off tuition today. And thank you for subscribing to this show. We'll see you next Monday.